Excuse me.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Port Royal August 3rd public hearing. This public hearing is for the purpose of ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance to authorize the town manager to convey excess real property to facilitate the construction of a sidewalk within the town, described as Beaufort County Tax District 110, map 11, parcel 276, approximately 50 feet on 10th Street. Do we have we are working on having a image up. Turn off my sound.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
That's the extent of your knowledge.
I'll give it to Miss Sarah. We can use the
We'll-
GA.
Good.
Can I grab that ordinance for you real quick?
Sure.
Natalia left you a copy?
Mhm. Yep, and this,
Yeah. This
we go, we're going back old school.
UGA.
Love that we have backup. There we go.
Thank you, bro. From to the rescue.
And so the 50
works.
feet is along this area right here.
Right there. Okay. So in front of 911 10th Street. Do we have any comment from the public? Have we received any comment?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we are going to go ahead and close the public hearing for tonight, and we're going to go directly into the Town of Port Royal's August Council Workshop. The first item of business is an interview for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have one applicant, Nancy Plank. Nancy, please come forward and just tell us a little bit about, I know you've already been on this, and kind of, why you want to keep doing it. And we thank you for
I don't
keep-
know.
We
They
all
think I'm
understand that
crazy.
statement, by the way, yeah.
No. Good evening, Mayor, Council, band, staff. Most of you do know me. Those that don't, I'm Nancy Blank. I'm the chairperson of the Old Village Association. I've been the chair for 8 years. I've also been a previous business owner here, which both entities you would have marketing, selling it. We sold, when we had the business, we had to sell the business to get people to come. I market our festivals, which, by the way, is one's coming up September 24th, Oktoberfest. So with all that involved, and I've been doing that for over 12 years. So I guess I do have a little bit of knowledge how to market and get things done. So that's why I'm requesting that you give me consideration to become your lead on this.
Council, any questions for Nancy? We all, like I said, we all know her, and we know what a good job she does.
You've done a great job with everything that you've
Yeah.
done. We certainly appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
your
Yes.
willingness to serve in this capacity,
Okay.
continue to serve in this capacity.
Yeah, Kevin, you got anything?
Thank you.
We appreciate you taking the time coming in. This is a little different than in the
Yeah,
past.
okay.
This is the new way that we're doing our boards and commissions.
Mm-hmm.
We ask the applicants to come in to the workshop so that we can talk about it a little bit, make sure we understand what everybody's doing, you understand
Right.
what we're looking for in that way.
Well, I will give it my best
I
shot
know
that
you
I
are.
can possibly give. I have to do it my best because I got someone near and dear to me is gonna be on me if I don't. So I have to do a good job.
Absolutely, absolutely, that
So-
way, so.
Anyway, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or,
Nope, we thank you for your service, and next week, at next week's council meeting, we'll do the official vote,
okay.
and you will be back in the saddle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here.
Then, council briefing.
Before I do the council briefing, I'd like to introduce Natalia Laney. She was formerly with Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. She is our formally recognized clerk to council at a special meeting last week, and this is Natalia.
Natalia, tell us a little bit about yourself. Sorry, loaded question.
I've lived in Beaufort County for about 16 years. I'm a Navy brat, so prior to that, kind of moved every couple of years. Like you said, I previously worked for Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. It would have been 14 years this October, so I was there for quite a while. I have a daughter named Johanna. She's 15. She goes to Beaufort High. She plays soccer and basketball, so that keeps me busy. And I have a new puppy. She's a year old. She's a King Charles Cavalier. Her name is Kona, and that's my fur baby. And my spare time, I like to be near the water, either the beach, pool, on the river, hummingbird watching, plants, gardening, yard sailing, and hanging out with my friends and family.
Sounds exciting.
So
Council.
glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. Council, anything?
Welcome to Port Royal.
Yeah, welcome.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to working with you.
Okay.
All right, first item I have is I want to introduce Dean Moss with the Friends of Spanish Moss Trail. He's going to kind of give you an overview of some of the options that we're exploring to get the eventual crossing of the Spanish Moss Trail into Port Royal. And I can bring up those images if you would like, Dean.
That's the one I'd like.
You got option one or option two? Which one would you like me to put up?
I think option 2, please.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. I can blow it up a little bit.
Yep.
I did that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just wanted to give you a briefing of where we are on the development of the trail crossing into Port Royal at long last, after, I forget how long we've been trying to do this, but it's pretty close to 10 years. We have received from South Carolina Department of Transportation an okay. Now, if you look at this, you'll see off to the left is the trail coming down from Smilax. And what we do in recognition of the long-term plan to put the spine road in, we moved everything down to the lower part of the right-of-way. So that at some point with this, that's one reason for it. The other reason is that with this pedestrian crossing, and this is one of the issues I'm going to talk about, we have to separate it as far as we can from the driveways, the one going into Penders and the one going into the landscape company. So that is the way that design works. From the right, once it crosses onto the Port Royal side of Rebo, the plan carries it down to the driveway going in off
Ritter Circle.
Off to Ritter Circle. And at least the concept is that we would utilize that driveway temporarily to get out to Ritter Circle. That's a problem we're going to have to wrestle with. Another problem, but it's a secondary problem compared to this one. So DOT has approved this concept. That would be a hawk signal, pedestrian control crossing, similar to the one that we're using on 170, which has proven very successful. It's proven safe, and people use it. This is a little more complicated, as you all understand, that the traffic coming from Paris Island and coming down from the north is moving faster than the traffic approaching the one thing on 170. So it's going to take some time for folks to get used to this. It's my belief that about 80% of the traffic on this road every day is on this road every day. And so once it gets to the point that people know this crossing is here, we're going to have lots of flashing lights. There's lots of safety alerting built into this. And once people get used to the fact that this is here, things will normalize a little bit. DOT's approval of this we received in June, and I'll just read you exactly what they say. The design must comply with all requirements for a PHB, which is the pedestrian control crossing installation. Of particular note, at this site, the design will require strategic selection of the crossing location as it relates to the adjacent properties. Access. For the adjacent properties to retain full access, approximately 100 feet of separation is needed between the driveways and the crossing. Otherwise, the driveways will be restricted right in, right out. An example location of a similar design is located on the Spanish Moss Trail crossing on 170. The street coming out there near it is a right-in, right-out street only. The other conditions are straightforward. DOT, Beaufort County is going to agree to maintain the signal. It must remain in the right-of-way, so we have to make some changes in the right-of-way, and just some other stuff. The problem we have is that the way Pender's driveway is currently configured, and you can see it right up there. This is the existing driveway right here. The way it's currently configured, it is not 100 feet. And so the question is, how do we fix that? And there are two alternatives that we've considered to doing. You can see that little square right above the driveway. Inside that square is a pole, phone pole, electric pole, and next to it is a phone bank on the ground, buried phone bank. So alternative one is to pull those out, move all that stuff somewhere else so that we can go up that way. Alternative two, which is the one we favor, would take that driveway, and as you can see, we showed on a design, you put the exit driveway from Pender's up to the north. And if we do that, we achieve 100 feet.
So that is the 100 feet.
That would be, we would get 100 feet by doing that. The entrance driveway, which is below the little blocks, is fairly straightforward. If you're coming from Paris Island, it's a sweet right turn in. If you're coming from the other direction, you've got a turn lane, and you can get in without any issue.
Is there already a curb cut there?
Yes.
Okay.
So our proposal is to change that. We will need a new curb cut over on the northern piece.
Right.
We can't
That's what I was
go-
asking.
We can't go any higher because there is a major drain facility that's built right into the, to the curb that as my consultant tells me, is the type and the size that we can't move, even under the best of circumstances. So we got to work our way into that situation. Now, that requires DOT to give us a bit of a variance, not a huge one, because they have a resolution that says if you have an in and an out driveway, there's got to be some certain minimum distance between the two, and we do not meet that minimum distance. And so what we've got to be able to do is to convince DOT that this is what makes sense. And I have the process of doing that is starting with me telling you guys about it and answering your questions and hopefully making you comfortable with that. The cost of moving the pole is significant, and if it was only power, that would be one problem. But with that duct bank in there,
duct bank.
that's a very expensive change, because you're going to have to dig everything up, you're going to have to splice everything, dig another hole, move everything up the road, and do that. So it's a complicated and expensive process. We have met with Pender, one of the Pender brothers. We'll meet with the other one in the morning, and to kind of make sure that they're okay with this approach. So far, so good. So that's basically where we are on this. The county is ready to put this out to bid as soon as we can get DOT's final check off. The engineers are ready to do that as soon as we finish drawing this up. When everybody's happy about it, we'll draw it up and submit it to DOT for their review. It may take a little help along the way with DOT, but we're prepared to work on that. Financially, we basically, at least, we are within, we've estimated the project cost at about $1 million. And that covers everything all the way down and out to Ritter. This is going to add some cost, but we've got $1,035,000 if and I'll say this very frankly, if the town of Port Royal will agree to participate at $200,000. That is that's what we need to make this thing work. We're continuing to look for additional funds, but the county has agreed to support it. The state legislature has come forward. Shannon Erickson has got $200,000 that they've made available. The Friends of the Trail have a $100,000 donation from a donor specifically for this project. And so we are at $835,000, and I'm hopefully the $35,000 will cover whatever we've got to do there in terms of putting paving in and doing those kinds of things. So if we can get DOT to sign off on this and move forward, and if the town is comfortable with providing support. Again, we have not bid this job yet. These are engineers' estimates. So, they may come in at $800,000, and if they do,
That's fine, because we're gonna need to keep building this and further down anyway.
yeah, we've got more to do. We've had very good conversations with Safe Harbor. There's no issue about an easement through their property down to Ritter. Those have been very positive conversations. City manager, town manager has been very helpful on this. So if we can make this thing work, my objective would be to get this thing built by the end of the year.
Like
Now,
that.
I may be crazy, but that's, got to have an objective, so
Gotta have an
that's my objective. And I can tell you that the number of people that have been beating me up to get this done, people want to be able to come across this road and come into Port Royal. And people in Port Royal want to be able to come across that road and get up the trail. So, we've come a long way, and I think we're almost to the point where we can declare victory. So, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have one or two small ones. Dean, because the sidewalk doesn't exist on Reebok Road, are we actually gonna build that little to nowhere sidewalk, or we're just
No.
leaving the
That is
engineering
all-
and that'll happen if the sidewalk project happens, right?
It's a portion
This sidewalk right here
in front of,
we're
There's a
gonna
portion.
build this little tiny section of it, but the sidewalk project itself is an approved county project
Yeah.
that they're gonna fund out of the 18 referendum fund.
Yeah, part of my mind, because I hate to do a sidewalk to nowhere, a little left, a little right, if there's any way you could identify the sidewalk in the trail the way you build the trail and not do either one of the extensions and let the county tie in on each side when that project happens.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it.
County was on site last week looking at that section. that
so
is-
well, let's just see how the timing works out. I
From
just,
Drayton to that point, and then from that point to Sea Island Apartments.
Lenora, the Lenora. direction.
Lenore, also connecting Lenore, okay, and Drayton, okay.
Yeah, so it would complete the sidewalk all the way down,
To the
it's
bridge.
already there, in
Drayton
front of the
down.
apartments, all the way down to Lenore.
Good.
and then, all right, and then the other thing, council, this is more of a statement. Proclamations are by the mayor, doesn't need vote, but if you want a proclamation to support this driveway, once you hear from the vendors tomorrow, let us know. If you can prep it, I'll come in and sign it so that you can add it to the package.
Okay, thank you,
Council's
Mr.
okay
Mayor.
with that, right? Everybody's good with that? So that we can support that, put the proclamation in the package as well, and we'll get a copy up to Christie Hall as well in that aspect, so that everybody knows what's happening in that way. So we don't hold the process up. It's easier to do that than a resolution, because then we have to go through readings in that one. Okay?
All right,
And the other piece we all need to remember, we don't know when it's gonna be, but really this driveway is somewhat temporary. Because when the Spine Road gets built, the Penders will access their property through the Spine Road. So I assume,
and so will the landscape.
and so will the landscape side, so,
Once that drive.
but we don't know when that's gonna be. We don't know when that's gonna be.
Once we get a real light in there,
Right
it'll,
into that.
it'll make a huge difference. And the trail will then cross, we'll design that intersection so that the trail comes across. And at that point, it will be time to work with Safe Harbor in terms of the master plan for this section, including the road and the trail next to one another through that zone.
Right, right, okay. This is great news. Council, any other questions?
Thank you.
Dean, once again, thank you. Thank you, the rest of the board that is working on this, because I know you've got two other gentlemen that have been pounding the pavement, trying to figure this out as well. Thank them both for us, and let us know how we can help.
Let me ask you one question. That out, so I see the end and I follow that. And then the out exit there at Pender, that's where the curb cut's gonna be?
Enter Pender Brothers Investments right there, that's the out.
Okay, and there'll be a curb cut there, and then that'll be asphalt driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
then
it-
tie back into their.
Gotcha, it'll just kind of, I got you. Okay, I understand. And then the concrete medians, those are concrete medians on each side of the trail
Yep.
as you were at the crossing?
What we call refuges.
A raised, those are raised concrete.
Yep,
Okay.
they're raised concrete, so the kind of thing that, you know, if you get across and the light changes and you've got to have a safe place to be while that traffic goes through.
Right.
That's a safe place for you to
Okay,
be.
that's cool. That looks good. Thank you for all your help and all your hard work.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank the rest of the.
Looks
board.
great.
All right, Safe Harbor, we had a meeting last week to discuss the removal of the, what they call the P buoy, or the C buoy, entry into Port Royal Sound. It was more or less a harbor pilot safety meeting that was held in Charleston. A lot of discussion, not only about this one in particular, but other locations along the coast. They were adamantly opposed to the removal of the P buoy and replacing with a virtual buoy. Obviously, some of the more obvious reasons are, not every boat ship has the electronic capability to project that virtual buoy. Second, if you have a boat coming in, that's lost electronics, which we actually had recently. And then one of the third ones that the pilots pointed out, sometimes, they've got to do lining up significantly outside of coming in. And so they use those visual buoys virtually every single time they come in. So they were pretty adamant. They made their point very clear to the Coast Guard personnel that was also in attendance. And I think we have put together a number of letters that are being submitted, including a resolution that y'all passed. I think the closing date for comment is August 14th or 15th. They added a couple weeks, and I think you just got a letter from Senator Campson as well.
Yep.
So I'll
Yeah,
keep
he's
you
today.
up to date on that. We didn't have a monthly meeting with Safe Harbor this month. We'll figure out when that's going to be rescheduled. They are still working with a residential development company on the Bluff neighborhood piece. We met with them discussing performance of the TIF, how the debt would be structured, potential reimbursements, moving forward with public infrastructure. So moving along. Okay.
Are we ready to reissue the TIF, I guess is the right, is that the right statement?
I think it's still
Still too premature?
yeah.
Okay.
I think if Safe Harbor does do something with that Bluff neighborhood, that purchase would then be included in the calculation. So that would obviously add value to the increment, which would generate more, the ability to generate more through debt service.
Okay.
We also obviously very deep into that 20-year timeframe on the TIF, so if we can reset the clock. We had the discussion with the school district, and they seemed receptive, so.
Yeah, I just
we'll
don't
see
want to
how
wait
we
too
can
long
move
before we
forward.
go back to
Yeah,
them
exactly.
on resetting that clock.
Rebo Road corridor study, and I'll just kind of dovetail this with the redevelopment commission. Both member of the redevelopment commission, I reached out to Tripp today to, prompt him that we need to wrap this up, and we need whatever report to come out, because the redevelopment commission is meeting with the impacted or potential redeveloped properties along the commercial corridor. We've met with the 19th Street PUD, which is where the old building was demolished. We've met with the folks redeveloping the car wash and the Help of Beaufort site. We have had meetings with the folks that, or have had discussions with one of the townhome developments behind the Port Royal Center, and we're continuing to reach out. And one of the other things we've been talking with them about is some sort of parallel drive to Rebo Road behind some of the properties adjacent to Vinay. We've had Cooter and his firm do some drawings to kind of give us an idea, so that's something we'll be looking into as well. So once we get this corridor study wrapped up, that'll give us a little bit more direction in terms of what our expectations should be for redevelopment opportunities along the corridor. And like I said, the redevelopment commission has done a really good job of talking with Low Country Fresh, which is a group out of Bluffton. They've had some discussions with them and how that worked, or what their challenges were, and what you could conceivably anticipate over here. So, all right. Sands Beach, couple of things. We are working on the transition of ownership of the boat landing itself from Safe Harbor to the town. The county is drafting that maintenance IGA, so that those things kind of happen at the same time. As you all know, there's about $89,000 worth of repair work that needs to be done to the floating pieces of that landing at the moment. So we certainly want to have the maintenance piece, or IGA, in place prior to acting on that, or if we have some assurance it's going to happen, that'd be fine. We do have the document prepared, so we could act on it next week, depending on when we receive the maintenance IGA. Second part, just what recently happened at Sands Beach, you saw where we had that one sinkhole. It's because the corrugated pipe that was in that section of Sands Beach Road kind of gave out. We did cover it with a steel plate, so it's still very functional and working. We didn't want to close the pipe down, obviously. We have Low Coast working with Tony on a solution to re-sleeve that. So we'll get it re-sleeved, and then we'll address that, the kind of washing out around the sinkhole part of it. Right now, it's working as almost an inverse speed hump, but you know.
It's pretty smooth, actually.
Yeah.
The steel plate's great.
Yeah.
Just
We had to scramble. We had to call on some Buford Jasper connections to get us a steel plate, but they worked out.
Right. Just to clarify,
Thank them.
I don't like the term sinkhole because it has a bad connotation of what goes on in areas of geological sinkholes.
Yeah.
This is a failure of the road due to a storm drain pipe, very shallow. Even if it was to go all the way down, it's a very shallow area.
Yeah, and I have an image of that pipe, and what's interesting is the Low Coast sent it today, and you can see where it kind of started doing that dipping.
They call it hot dogging.
Yeah.
Top of the
Yeah,
pipe,
that's
hot dog
it.
rolls
Yeah.
in, and it rolls in, and then you get the failure. So, okay. Yeah, Kevin.
Real quick, just while we're on the topic of Sands Beach, and I've spoken with Van about this, I don't know if y'all gotten any phone calls from residents and about where golf carts are allowed on the beach and what's going on with that, and if we wanted to address that or look at the...
I would say we defined that when we originally roped it off. There are signs that say no vehicles beyond this
Beyond that
point
point.
in the bird sanctuary area of the far side, and that includes golf carts. They're
But I've
considered
seen golf carts
vehicles.
in there, and I've not heard from anyone, but I have seen
Yeah.
golf.
I saw some traffic.
We have, it's interesting because when we did do the plan that was created
None,
by
right?
Pete.
the Recreation Commission,
Right.
we left openings
Yeah.
for
Golf carts.
Golf carts.
That's true.
So, I mean, ultimately, I think we accommodated them, but if you read the signs, you would think that they aren't allowed, and that's where
Do
there's.
you want to take another look at this?
Yeah, I mean, if it's something as simple as a sign saying golf carts only past this point,
I would
you
say-
know.
Well, I
then
guess
if that
No
fixes it.
gas, no gas vehicles.
Well,
we
half
need
your
to
golf
get
carts
some-
are gas.
Golf carts are
I
gas.
know, but not all of them. Not all of them. That's right, because I seen it exactly, not all of them.
Yeah.
See, then you have that exposure of fluids.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons. Do we want Park and Rec to look at this, or do we want to decide from here, guys? What do you want to do? Obviously, we can't make this,
We can turn it back over to Parks and Rec
I mean,
and get a recommendation.
Honestly, for the most part, golf carts have traditionally been allowed down there.
okay, then
What
change the
happened was
sign.
if somebody raised an issue and we said, you know, the way the sign reads, no
Then
vehicles.
then change the signs. If that's
Yeah.
what we're okay with, then let's just change the signs. Make it, but, so that way our law enforcement knows
Fuel
exactly what the
spillage,
rules
that's what
are
I'm
and what the
saying.
rules are.
We can drive up there.
Not in front of the rope, not between the ropes and the
Down on
water.
on the other end, yes.
On the far end.
Where it says, there's a sign that
Right.
says motorized vehicles.
Oh, right.
I drive over that sign.
Yeah,
That's the
everybody
sign,
does.
that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let's define it right with the signs.
All right,
I wanna see us any-
impact fees.
That was it, thank you.
We've gotten the rewritten IGA for the various impact fees that we're contemplating. One is a redraft of the traffic or transportation impact fee with a revised capital improvements list that, we kind of backed into a fee based upon what would be palatable, of around $3,600, and I think it's about $50 million worth of impact fee projects. Now, obviously, when that list was contemplated, that was one of the potential funding sources for projects. Well, the capital project sales tax penny was another piece of that equation. Unfortunately, that's pretty much dead in this fiscal year. Now, it could be revisited, so we've got that one, we have the recreation, and we have the library impact fee, as well as one that's being thought about is the EMS impact fee. So Lawrence is reviewing the changes now that were drafted. He was vacation last week. The county's anxious for us to provide feedback, and we told him we'd get it to him this week. And obviously, we closed on the GEO bond, so there's been a little bit of that going on as well. One of the points that we were discussing was the admin fee for collection and how that would be handled moving forward. There's some question about the legality of the 1% admin fee. If the county, if we were to require it to be paid to us, it could not come from the revenue derived from the fee. It'd have to be paid from the county's general fund. The county has offered to create a portal that would allow the folks needing to pay the impact fees to do it that way, so it could be done remotely, or so that it wouldn't slow down the process, because they're asking for us to make sure it's paid prior to issuing any sort of permit for construction, which is typically how it's handled. So that kind of point was addressed. I know some of the other municipalities, or at least one, may want to still do the collection just so it stays involved completely in the process. My preference would be if there's a portable available and they can handle it, and we can get proof prior to, and it's done in a timely manner, then we should let the county handle that.
I would agree with the portal scenario there. We certainly don't want people having to go to the county buildings and plus come here to get a building permit. If there's an online portal available, I would say I think that's something we could support in that way, Ben. And
If it works in theory, it sounds nice.
Right.
Like they just pay, they get a receipt that says, I just paid my
Exactly.
impact fee.
I would assume that the portal could notify your building department directly in that way, so let's see what that portal looks like.
Right.
And so at where we are right now is we've done first reading on everything except for EMS. EMS, we have not even first reading.
No.
So we're first reading until you tell us the IGAs are ready to go,
Yeah.
and then we'll add it to an agenda for second reading. So we're sitting ready to go. Good, thank you.
Which leads me to just a quick write-up on the capital project sales tax. It seems that the county's abandoned pursuing that referendum and is going to pursue a green sales tax referendum. I'm not sure what length, how many years, how much money or funding they're anticipating collecting to make that happen. Obviously, many of the projects that we had hoped to get funded were going to be through the capital project sales tax. A number of the intersection improvements, Ladies Island Drive and Repo Road, Savannah Highway, and Paris Island Gateway, Spine Road, some of the improvements at Lenore Drayton to improve safety. Also looking at our main intersection, obviously those were included on the capital project sales tax list, which is now not going to be contemplated in this calendar year. It could be revisited in '24, however, like I said, I'm almost 100% certain the county is pursuing the green penny or a portion of the penny. Not sure how applicable that is to, or what sort of impact it would have on Port Royal whatsoever. I can see it being used in other places in the county, which I assume would have some sort of impact on traffic, I guess, in Port Royal, if you take units out of the count. I'll just stop there.
Got it.
Okay?
Just so the council knows, I've spoken with all the other, not all, I didn't speak with the Hilton Head mayor, but I spoke with all the rest of the mayors, and we've all agreed that it's gone. There's no way to bring it back in this calendar year. It's at the point that it's gone beyond the time limits allowed for them to have the votes that they need to submit the resolution in time. So it's dead for this calendar year. We even considered it requesting special meetings and stuff, and we polled county council, and there was no way to have it.
All right, shrimp facility boats, we have one boat left plus one derelict sailboat. As far as those two boats go, we're just gonna have to go the complete legal process in terms of complete arrest and public auction for those two. The sailboat owner is just completely vanished, if you will. And we know where the owner of the shrimp boat is, and he's filed an answer, and we will pursue it. He's named a number for that shrimp boat, which is obviously not realistic. So I'll keep you posted on that. As far as the boat that did sink, DNR did remove whatever fuel that it had on it. We had conversations with the owner of that boat. Notice we have no responsibility for that boat whatsoever. He has agreed he is going to come in, and because we continue to have conversation with him about getting it salvaged, so he's working on that now. Yeah. And as I mentioned, and one of the other things that we did bring up at that safety meeting was a discussion of unregistered derelict boats that are showing up on the coast of South Carolina. Folly Beach has created a model ordinance that I think we need to take up. Because what's happening is Florida has passed pretty tight regulations on this issue. So a lot of the boats who are in those waters are migrating north up into Georgia and South Carolina waters. So Charleston and Folly Beach have helped create this ordinance. Spencer Wetmore, who used to be with the town of Folly Beach, is now a House rep. I have a phone conversation with her tomorrow and Whit to discuss the ordinance and see if we can about implementation here, so that we can stay on top of this before we start seeing the accumulation of these boats.
Good.
All right. CDBG, we have everything in place now except for a signed easement from the owner of the preserve apartments. The state has approved the extension on the contract. They've approved the contract itself. We've issued the notice to proceed. We have provided the preserve apartments with every single thing that they've asked for in this easement. And so the last thing is the signature on the easement.
Any indication they're gonna?
We've given them what they need on this, so.
Still resisting.
Yeah. And the second is Paris Avenue. I've asked Michael that we need a conceptual drawing, because I think we did want to incorporate some different style, if you will, speed hump / pedestrian crossings. That would be extremely helpful. And obviously, we're talking about refurbishing the beds, new lighting, and some stand-up curb to address some of the curb and gutter issues, which kind of goes into my next item, which is federal funds and grants. I went to the Rural Infrastructure Authority meeting last week. There's $900 million that's being spent in the state of South Carolina for water, sewer, and stormwater. We have provided two potential projects that we did at the beginning of the calendar year to Beaufort Jasper that we'd like to see funded. One is the improvement of commercial sewer along the Rebo Road corridor. The second is sewer at the 16th Street extension. There's a limitation on the number of projects that can be applied for, and there's some question as to whether or not municipalities could apply on behalf of Beaufort Jasper for projects. Beaufort Jasper has determined that isn't necessarily the case because they're not a not-for-profit, they're a quasi-governmental agency. They will be applying for two projects in this fund, one in Beaufort County, one in Jasper. And those will be their priorities. So they said they wouldn't object to any sewer projects that we might apply for. They just weren't going to place any priority on those whatsoever. All sewer expansion that's happened in Port Royal in the last 20 years has been through CDBG in the town of Port Royal. So I think we are going to put together an application for stormwater in this pot of money to address some of the issues we're having around Anchor Park, West Paris Avenue, and Madrid, and maybe creating some infrastructure to route that water out. So we'll be pulling all that together. We've got some pretty tight timelines coming up on that. So hopefully, I spoke with someone with the county this morning, and I think the sewer project is kind of a partnership that's being pulled together. So, and it's in a different part of the county. So.
If we have to start prioritizing one over the other as much as we wanted to do these two sewer projects, I think the stormwater project is more important. I don't know that because that's going to affect what happens in Paris on the road. And that way, so we're gonna have to look at that real carefully. It'd be interesting to see the drawings and when the projects come forward. If we have to prioritize, we may have to put that one.
And
aside.
in your folders, I did put a matrix, if you will, spreadsheet that we pulled together for capital projects. Because we are closing on the GEO bond tomorrow officially, and we could start spending that money Friday if we wanted to. But this is just a way for y'all to track the activity and where the timelines are on those projects if you do get asked. So we'll be updating it as we start backfilling that spreadsheet.
Okay.
Naval Hospital sidewalk, nothing new. Obviously, you saw the article that came out in the Allen packet. I put in your folders an email from Megan asking if she had heard anything from the Department of Navy in the last 3 weeks, and she has not heard anything. I did forward that article and that email to Mace's office, so hopefully something will happen. Personnel, y'all met Natalia earlier. We have hired another part-time position for the front office to assist with permitting and some public works and some other administrative items. We're looking at, obviously, another hire as Cynthia does retire September 1, so after 44 years.
44 years.
We'll be discussing that later, but just wanted to make y'all aware of that. One other thing, housing IGA, that's another one Lawrence is taking a look at a little bit, but the basic items, there were two things that were kind of sticking points for us. One was the funding formula. There were two methods. One was based upon population in the first year and the subsequent years. The second was a percentage of the ARPA funds, and then the years 2 through 10 would be based upon population. We had some concern about the ARPA formula. However, the Good Neighbor Fund that the county had put together to make donations from their ARPA collection, I think they got, 16 or 37, I can't remember the specific number, $1 million. They went from 250 to 500,000. So the ability to use our ARPA funds, and you can utilize the Good Neighbor Fund to do that match, makes it doable, if you will.
Yeah.
The second part of that is how this program will be governed and or regulated. And right now, the recommendation on how this will be funded came from SoLoco. And SoLoco does not have representation from Beaufort or Port Royal on that board. So I think moving forward in that IGA, I think it needs to speak to all the participants that are contributing financially, having some say-so as to how the private contractor is being managed that's going to be handling the housing, as well as making sure that the projects that are being funded are equitably distributed in participating organizations. And then what I just mentioned earlier, we did a pre-closing on the general obligation bond of $3 million borrowing. On Tuesday, we got all those documents signed. It'll be officially closed on Thursday. And then basically, if you take a look at that matrix I did for capital improvements, you'll see what the basic priorities are for the $3 million, which is a lot of ankles down, road resurfacing, stormwater, and then obviously some participation in sewer if necessary, although I think most of that will come from ARPA. All right. That's all I got.
Any questions for Ben on? So next is to review the council agenda for next week. We have our standard 4 minutes of review. Any updates to the council briefing or anything specific that you need Van to brief us on, please let him know about that. No first readings. We have second readings. One, which again is the sidewalk project that we had our public hearing on tonight, and the appointment to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And then our dates. Anything missing from the agenda next week council wants added?
No, sir.
We're good?
No, actually, I was gonna ask Van and them about it. Spoke with you briefly about it, a company, Nexus Communications, and they wanted to come talk to us about texting and messaging, and so they just wanted to come do like a 10-minute presentation.
Can they come to the workshop in September? Rather do that at a workshop forum.
Okay, that's fine.
I think I'd rather do that at a workshop forum. It makes it a lot easier for us to talk. in
Sounds
that
good.
way. So let's see if we can't do that at a workshop forum. They were part of the municipal association people? Yeah, it's great. Let's do that. Let's go that route. Before we go to, important dates, let me go ahead and open up to the public, because I've got somebody who would like to speak. Jim Berry? Come forward, please.
Thank you. That is encouraging on the Spanish Moss Trail. I hope they can pull that off. That'd be great. What I wanted to ask about, or bring to the attention, is I live right here on 8th Street. And if y'all are aware, the Last Chance Bake Shop sold several months ago, and it's just opened up again this week. CC's Honey Hole, selling bait, tackle, ice, Coke. And I went over and saw her the other day and encouraged her. I'm a fisherman. It's great to have a place to get bait. But what concerned me and my wife and a couple of us neighbors is they've applied for what we read as an on-site consumption of beer and wine. And so about 4 of us or 5 neighbors have turned in a protest form to the Department of Revenue, just voicing our concerns for the on-site consumption. And the way and we're not experts in the town ordinance by any chance, but the way we read it, it's a neighborhood center, T4 neighborhood center, and bars, taverns are not allowed in a neighborhood center. I think the way I read it too is that if you're gonna sell and consume on site, you either gotta be a bar, tavern, or a nightclub, or a restaurant. I don't know what their next step is, but I just wanted to say, we don't wanna overreact as citizens, but we don't want the town to underreact if something comes forward, and we'd like to make sure that it gets looked at. We sent copies of our protest form to Van, I think, to Cynthia, to Noah, and I think you got a
Mayor,
copy.
I received all your copies.
Just what our concerns were, and that's all we just wanted to bring out. You know, again, I hope they succeed, but I just a little concerned with the neighborhood, the families that consuming right there on the site.
No, we appreciate that, and we normally don't get into an interaction during these comment sections, but I just want to let you know, we received them, we have spoken internally, we're checking and following the process and understanding what those requirements are. It has honestly been a while since we had somebody apply for an alcohol permit in the town, so we're getting ourselves up to speed on exactly how that's going to occur, what's going to happen in that way, and we've got our planning department looking at the zoning and what can and cannot be in that area in that aspect. So they will get a briefing on that. It may be as soon as next week's council meeting, but we're going to get a briefing on that aspect. So we appreciate, your concern about that, and we're taking a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Important dates.
All right, Thursday, August 4th at 5:30 PM is the Design Review Board. Saturday, August 6th at 6 PM is the first performance of street music, Dwayne Dopsy and the Zydeco Hellraisers.
Before you move to the next one, council, who can attend that one? I have a conflict that I'm trying to move and I cannot move.
I'm out of town.
Jerry, can you do the,
Yeah.
take a look at it, let us
Okay.
know. I'm still trying, but it's not looking good. There's something I've got going on.
Okay.
Let us know, because we gotta have somebody to introduce the band, and if not, hi.
6 o'clock.
Well, wait a minute, our new, well, you have to appoint her next week.
There you go.
I was gonna say, I probably will be there, but I'm not gonna get up. If that's what you want me to do, then I'm probably not your girl.
We'll let the police chief get up and introduce the band. That'll really get the mood set perfectly in that way. Full uniform, stand up there. I just want to let everybody know that I'm trying.
I'll make it work. I'll make it work.
I'm trying, but it's not looking good.
All right, then Tuesday, August 9th at 6:30 PM is Parks and Recreation Commission. Wednesday, the 10th is the regular council meeting. Tuesday, the 15th at 4:30 PM is Redevelopment Commission, and then Saturday, the 20th is the second performance of street music, Katie Henry. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Council, anything else for the workshop? For the business down? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.